Here's Callum Singleton that gets us underway with the opening break. And 8 balls straight away. Golden break to get us underway. Just like that. One shot of the tournament. One frame on the board. Wow.
Callum Singleton's first shot as an ultimate pool professional out in the main TV arena. He has won the frame in one shot.
And he knew it straight away as soon as that 8 ball got contacted. And just like that, we are 1-0. Incredible.
So, very quickly after the first break, Craig Lakin breaks off in frame 2. Not the same quality of strike at all. He didn't get a good contact on the pack, but he's potted 3 balls. Not the 8 ball, so he's going to have to do this the long way.
Yeah, you can see there on the replay, a complete and utter miss hit. And almost the reaction tells it as well. If you just look at his body language, he knows he didn't hit them well. And considering how poorly he hit them, he'd take this result. 8 balls awkward, and the first shot's awkward. But now that first shot's gone well, he can start to plot his route.
Quite a quick format this. 1st to 7 sounds a lot, but the standard of these players, the match is going to be over in no time, especially with a 40-minute match clock. So making a good start is imperative. Callum's obviously won the first frame, but no signs of how he's playing. It's just that one shot. So first chance for a clearance for Craig. And with that first shot, he's opened up things nicely. He's got that yellow out the way that was blocking the 8 ball.
Yeah, and what's amazing about Craig is he's got natural instincts as a pool player, and kind of, it looks like he's flying around the table, but he can be quite clever about how he goes about opening up frames and making these clearances. And the subtlety of moving the yellow out of the way, opening up the 8 ball to the corner, knowing he'd leave this one last ball, making it look simple.
He's given himself a shade more angle than he wanted on this 8 ball, but as long as he can plot a path for the cue ball, he should be fine. So, 8 ball safely down, and in no time at all, scores tied at 1 apiece. It was a pretty fair test. It wasn't like it was a 40-minute timed match where the result could have been a bit more random. Well, couldn't repeat the heroics of the first break. It's actually split them up quite well, but hasn't potted one. Balls flying around the table. Craig's also one of those big occasion players. You wouldn't be at all surprised if he turned up under the limelight of the TV cameras and pulled out a big performance this morning.
He is that sort of player. And the other thing that happens because he beat Mick Hill in the qualifying stages is it essentially takes the #1 seeded spot. So because he's taken out the top seed in his section of the draw, it sort of, I said it in the studio beforehand, all 4 players will be happy with the draw because he's taken out Mick. It kind of, I wouldn't say, not saying it opens up the draw for him, but it certainly, you know, there's nothing scary about it. You know, he can think, if I play my best stuff here, I can get through today, which is all the players are trying to do, get through a couple of matches.
It's a very open group, and it's a group that's quite hard to call because they're all different styles of players. Craig's the most attacking, entertaining one, I guess you'd say, but everyone's bringing something different to the table. 4 very good players. It's very composed out there. Obviously, one of the issues of not having had a great season is that he hasn't had so much time out in the main match arena. He's just slipped slightly out of position. Unwanted cannon there. So now left himself a much more difficult shot.
Just overcut it, you could see that the whole way. So the first missed pot in the match.
And this is a great first visit opportunity for Callum Singleton. First time to get his hand properly on the table in open play.
It feels strange, doesn't it? It's frame 3. He's already got a frame on the board, but we don't really know how Callum's playing yet. He's only played 2 shots, both of them breaks.
He's not going to be fazed by the occasion. He's won a lot of big tournaments, but this is obviously a big opportunity for him. He hasn't had quite this exposure before.
Everything we know about Callum, every time we've seen him play, and every time he's been on this sort of stage, though, he's always excelled, and he's got a level of composure out there that really is exceptional. Although First couple of shots there, he's just let the cue ball run a little bit further than he wanted.
Gareth talked about temperament in the studio show beforehand, and that's exactly the thing. I mean, Callum's had such a good season, but he's just looked like he's meant to be out there. He doesn't look at all fazed by what's in front of him. It's one of the more tactical players of the younger crowd coming through. He's not afraid to mix it up with a tactical shot if he needs to. It's not very likely in this format that you're going to see too much of that.
Key shot, you feel, right now.
Just coming around to look at the ball to the centre pocket, which is where he needs to link up to.
Yeah, that's perfect. Just where he wants it.
Playing conditions are going to suit him quite well. He has a very delicate touch around the table. I think he'll quite like playing on these very fast cloths. Well, this has been some start, hasn't it? Barely 5 minutes into the match, 3 frames down already. Just this 8 ball required to complete that 3rd frame.
Yeah, excellent counter clearance that will really settle Callum down.
Craig Lakin was one of the initial 32 pros at the beginning of the 2021 season, so he's been with Ultimate Pool from the start.
How about that for a break? His first break he couldn't have hit worse, and he made a break clearance. This one was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, he'll be happy if he can carry on breaking like that. Bit of work to be done. The balls have got a bit tied up, but going straight after one of the most difficult ones.
Yeah, it's a strange game, isn't it? Because he hit his first break so well, poorly, and got I wouldn't say an easy finish, but he got a finish that, you know, you could see one problem to solve, and he solved it. And this one, he's got a bit more work to do. He's got to pick this one apart a little bit more. Yellow on the left-hand side's a real issue.
The speed he plays at either looks very good or very bad in these kind of positions where there is a bit of work to be done to unravel a position. Sometimes he opens it from nowhere, sometimes he doesn't. He's a very knowledgeable player though. He's known for the sort of fast, fluent stuff, but knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I said in that opening frame, isn't it? It's natural. He's got natural pool instincts in terms of his patterns, and he plays so quickly at times. You think, is he even thinking about it? He's absolutely flying around the table, but he kind of just naturally sees the way around it. There are times when you think, oh, maybe he's going a bit too fast, and a little bit more care and attention might help him, but then it's that balancing act, isn't it? Not quite. Not quite. I think he was maybe trying to slide behind that, right? Because the place he played at, can't have been trying to play into it.
Yeah, had a lot of angle to work with, a couple of different ways of going there, but he's still got that problem ball.
Well, good news, bad news. He opened up the yellow, but isn't on it. This is super tough now. And considering he missed a ball in the previous frame, having had first chance, this could be the same fate happening here.
Well, you can't blame him because there wasn't a lot on, but I think he's going to struggle with this game against Callum Singleton. He's outnumbered in terms of the balls on the table, and he's playing a very experienced tactical player. Obviously not a great deal he can do from this position, but he's just got so many balls on the table, it's just not that hard to hide the white.
Yeah, it was an interesting decision from Craig, because a double, or probably more likely the treble, was an option. And that may be the best option he would have to win this frame. Because you feel like it's only going to get harder from here unless Callum makes a very poor mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the point, isn't it? It wasn't that it was a good opportunity, but is he really hoping to get a better one from this position? Because even if Callum somehow was to break down, you assume he's not just going to leave him a shot at the yellow. You're going to see a bit more tactical play first, not quite in a position to go for the clearance. I mean, really, Craig's in the kind of position where he's just going to have to get the yellow travelling. If he can get to the left-hand side cushion and get behind it, he'd have had a good chance to make it to the right middle, but I don't think he can find that angle.
Cue ball in hand. Anywhere on the table here for Callum. This should be his opportunity to win this frame.
So just coming around to look at the ball to the left middle. If that red is accessible, he'll probably just leave it there. Take the one up the right-hand cushion first.
Even if it's not, he might make the decision to deal with this one and then play another safety, then deal with the other one. You just get your one visit. Cue ball in hand anywhere on the table, but that is it. So no extra shots or free shots or anything like that.
Very easy format to understand. It takes a bit of getting used to if you played other forms of pool, but actually once you watch a few frames of this, there's a great simplicity to it.
Okay, looks like he's decided a cannon. Possibly likely on the yellow. The only thing I'll say is if he plays the cannon on the yellow and he leaves himself straight on the red to the left centre, then he's probably going to have to play for a plant. Wasn't guaranteed to go well, but he does have that plant that I talked about.
This is really the only lifeline that Craig could hope for. If this plant goes in, Callum will be in prime position. Let's go around to look at whether that yellow goes. It's going to take the pressure off slightly if it doesn't, but still, the yellow is now in much more open play in the middle of the table.
That's a well-played shot. Controlled the cue ball well as well. He's now in a position where he can drop this one in, leave the one over the centre pocket as his last ball.
Well, it's been a good start from both players. It's going to go 3-1 to Callum with this 8-ball, but Craig Lakin's looks pretty good. It's just a couple of late misses in frames that have cost him. Yeah, it's a great format this. There's every chance we are going to see a few 6-road shootouts, but not too many. We should still see plenty of good pool played.
Wow, that's an unbelievable break. How was the cue ball finish there, considering how well he hit this?
Yeah, it was never in any trouble. It was over the right-hand side of the table, then a series of bagatelles around the table. Almost ended up in the corner.
Well, he probably feels like he's got to go here. It's going to have to be reds. The reds aren't terrible. We'll have to play a really good positional shot to deal with the ones in the bottom half. If he can, you see where he's pointing his cue there. If he can land on that one, then he can get on the bottom one. I guess that he's got an angle that he can get there now. It's a case of whether he wants to try and do that now, because he'd be leaving the 8-ball down there, or whether you deal with the 4 at the top and then try and get to that position, which is looks like what he's trying to do.
And that cue ball staying on the table could turn into a big turning point in this match, because if that gets cannoned in, Craig's at the table with a good opportunity on these balls, could make it 3-2. Instead of which, Callum's got the chance to really add some hurt and go 3 frames clear. Does look very composed. We talked about this at the beginning of the match, but he's just going around the table at a very steady pace, giving away very little facially so far.
Key shot now. He's pointed his cue a couple of times where he wants to land. You could see it. He almost wants to land level with that red into the bottom centre pocket as we look from the overhead. Doesn't want to be passed straight on it. Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely perfect.
Been some really good cue ball control. This table plays very fast, faster than the tables he'll have been practicing on in the back of the venue. He's had it pretty much on a string all match so far. It's one of those players that's all about control. You can see he's playing with a very small tip on his cue. It's not really a power play, just strokes the ball around the table.
Yeah, a lovely break clearance for Callum Singleton. Yeah, when you factor in his 288 runners each weekend, incredible really. Well, if the comeback's going to happen, it needs to start here for Craig Lakin, but that reaction tells the story. This is not the layout he wanted. Although, having a look at it, it's tricky on yellows. It doesn't really have a choice on reds because you can't pot one. Might not even be able to see one.
You always get a lot more from Craig, don't you? Callum's going around the table, not giving anything away, but you can always tell from Craig's face what he's thinking.
So with the yellows, the challenge is obviously underneath his body now, that bottom corner. What does he do there? How does he decide to deal with it?
Taking the positives, this is actually quite a presentable opportunity. It's not as easy as he would have liked, but
it's certainly well within his skill set. It's just, for me, how does he deal, you know, when does he deal with the bottom left-hand corner? A couple of ways he could do it. He's trying to power into it now. Oh, he'll take that. That's come out nicely. He might have to play the next one fairly firm as well, because he'll have to play yellow off yellow, but he needs the yellow to come out, which meant he was not guaranteed to be on the next ball.
Yeah, that may have looked a bad shot, but he needed that yellow to travel. It was better that it came out of that corner. If you're going to be critical of anything about that shot, it's the fact he didn't play good enough position on the ball at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, he played the cannon on the red and didn't get the full ball. Got it thinner than he wanted. Well, this time he misses with 3 yellows left on the table, so he has a little bit more value in the frame than he has previously when he's gone for the finish and not made it. And he hasn't left Callum much of a chance here. Callum one safety shot away from being in the driving seat, but this has to be a delicate shot to get the safety right. And it's a very well played shot.
Made that look very easy, but if he catches that ball too thick, he doesn't leave a snooker at all. He's judged that really well.
Yeah, and the yellow over the right centre waiting, isn't it? You don't have to do much wrong for that one to go horribly wrong.
Just starting to look a bit ragged from Craig. I mean, he had to give that a pretty firm hit. He was trying to fluke the ball. There was no point just resting onto it. But right now, Callum's looking the more composed of the players.
It's not the worst outcome for Craig Lakin, considering, you know, you are trying to fluke it in that situation, but you are also trying to mess the table up a little bit, and you never know. And the yellow's gone into an awkward position in the bottom of the table where those 3 reds were actually laid out really well for Callum. Now they're 2 of them are still there, and they're awkward.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, isn't it? Because when you're playing those shots, if your balls are in a nice position, you're trying to be delicate and not mess it up. Whereas if your opponents are in a good place, anything is an improvement, really. So having the balls travel around can sometimes be a good thing.
Clever from Callum. Lost a turn shot. If you hit your ball first, you can take your opponents off the table, as Callum did there. Limits Craig Lakin's opportunities and options. And it's often the way the tactical game in international 8-ball rules is played.
Yeah, it wasn't by any means the most obvious shot when you first looked at that position, but he picked it out well. Got to be a bit careful here because Craig has got the yellow into semi-open play, so can't afford to leave the white in a position where Craig can get to it.
I actually think it's a very good shot from Craig Lakin because he's bumped the yellow up far enough that the yellow goes to the bottom left, and there wasn't an easy safety up the table there for Callum, and it has given Craig a half a chance here. The yellow certainly goes top right.
How's that for a shot? And that's what Craig can do. Lovely pot. Trusting to luck a bit with the cannon, but it's turned out nice for him.
Gets away with that one. Almost goes in off.
And just like that, a frame you wouldn't necessarily have expected him to win. Just hung around in there, played a couple of good safety shots.
Could be a turning point because could have been 5-1 right there.
And for the second time in 2 breaks, the cue ball ending up in the top left-hand corner for Callum. This time it was kind of heading in that direction of its own accord, just a little nudge off the yellow to help it up there.
Yeah, and this time no complaints from Craig Lakin with the leave. This is a lovely layout. All the reds in the open.
And this game can turn around pretty quickly. What could so easily have been 5-1, it's 4-2, and it's Craig back at the table. It's a nice thing with a race to 7. It's a good distance. It's time to have some swings, but also it's not so long that anybody can get too far ahead. You're always in the game still.
Especially at this level, the players at the elite level are capable of running 4, 5, 6 frames. As we see Dylan Leary watching on, he'll be in action later on. Callum's partner in the World Doubles this year over in Killarney.
Yeah, Dylan playing Ronan McCarthy later on this afternoon.
Yeah, one of the matches of the first round for me, that actually. 2 Northern Irish teammates, world champion Ronan and Dylan. This isn't ideal, the way Craig's gone about this, leaving this one on the right-hand side as last ball. And he's a little bit fortunate to be able to pot this at all. Oh, that did not look right, and yeah, he walks away from the table. He knew straight away that was a sort of double hit, push shot, whatever, probably a combination of both. This was all wrong.
Yeah, it still looks a bit casual the way he was playing it. I mean, I know he had to reach for it, but could maybe put a more conventional stroke on still.
You could see there on the replay, so the cue ball came back, hit the cushion, came back and hit the cue again, and then went down the table and back up.
Yeah, the player would know immediately that they'd done that, even though it happened very quickly. That was just not the natural path the cue ball would have taken.
The sort of shot that causes the arguments down the local. But Craig knew straight away.
Yeah, great sportsmanship at this level. He was always walking away from the table there. There was never going to be any doubt about carrying on. That could be a big moment, though. And as you say, it was really the way he'd gone about the pattern. It wasn't so much that shot, but he just left himself an awkward last ball. Couldn't quite get good position on it. Callum right now has got to be loving life because he's hitting the ball really nicely, but he's just getting more chances than you tend to get in at elite level. Craig's just been playing a very open game and handing away these chances late in the frames, which is just so helpful if you're in Callum's shoes.
Well, we talk about chances so much in pool. Who's going to get the chances they need to win these matches, and first chances are so important. Well, you take the golden break out of play, there's been 6 other frames. Callum's only had first chance once. It's been, the breaks have all gone Craig Lakin's way, and he's not taken the most of them. 1 break clearance from his chances. The other frame he won was after a tactical battle after not taking out the first visit, so he'll be frustrated more so because of that. There are times you find yourself, 4-2, potentially 5-2 down, and your opponent's played really well and had the chances, but it's not been the match.
No, and you can see from his face that he knows that as well. This has been a bit the tale of Craig's season. He's played well in spells, but just hasn't quite got over the winning line. It looked like maybe he'd turned that around with that big win over Michiel to qualify for this event. But right now, it's all going the way of the man on the right-hand side of the arena. Sometimes under the TV lights, that's where you do get found out.
Fantastic break. Best break of the match.
Yeah, I mean, just could not have hit that Betty. Ball's exploding, White coming back in a straight line down the middle of the table.
And in a horrible layout, really. It's one of those layouts so you might look at it first glance and think, okay, this isn't too bad, but whichever way you go here, you don't like it. Reds, yeah, the ones at the top, not too bad. You can pick them apart, but how do you deal with red at the bottom? It's very awkward. There's not much room past that 8-ball. You'd have to play a very good positional shot. And if you go yellows, you've got the yellow on the left-hand side. That's really awkward as well, and how are you going to deal with that? So both ways have quite big problems, even though it looks better.
Sat in his chair, I think Callum will actually be quite happy to see Craig go for either colour. It's one of those frames, it's so easy to pot the first few balls and get yourself into trouble later in the visit.
Yeah, exactly that with reds, because your last positional shot's going to be your key one. If you're going to go down for that red last shot, and your margin of error is quite small.
No problem with the top of the table, but it's going to be all about one shot. It's either going to be a great clearance or he's going to hand the table over.
Looks like he's eyeing up red to right centre, so he's looking to give himself the natural just to drift down into that area. Decides to come for the same pocket, but this doesn't look a good angle to get there. Now feels like there's some blockers in the way. One nearest the cue ball. If he goes 2 cushions, could become a big blocker. Screws 1 cushion, it's hard to get there.
Yeah, it might look like there's a lot of space at the top of the table, but it's just not the space he needs.
He tries to screw 1 cushion, and yeah, that's hard. That was very, very tough. And no surprise to see that visit come to that end.
Wheels just starting to come off a little bit for Craig here. Match still isn't over, but this is the frame Callum needs to get onto the hill.
Delicate operation here for Callum. Get the cue ball in on that yellow.
Yeah, you have to do it yourself when it's ball in hand. It would be a foul if you knocked into anything. And that's where ball in hand is just really useful. He doesn't need a spare visit. It's just he needed a way to get through to that yellow. Now he's moved that one out of the way. Although they're not simple, they are all potable, of course. It's always a bit of a test. He's got balls on opposing side cushions, so he knows he's going to have to play some shots in this visit. This table just plays so well compared with the club table, though, that these kind of shots down the rails aren't quite as scary as they would be on an unfamiliar table.
I think the way that Callum plays, I don't think there's ever a scary shot. He never gives us anything. So composed out there.
Yeah, he's a very reassuring player, isn't he? You're playing with him and your life depended on it. It just doesn't look like he's going to throw a silly mistake in. He's obviously human. He'll miss the odd one, but it just looks like he's always in control of his game. It's going to be a good group, whoever goes through. We've got Sean Story against John Rowe is going to be our next match, so 2 other big name players in wait for whoever wins this one.
Yeah, former world champion up against a former Pro Series champion, number 2 seed from the inaugural season. Sean Story, fascinating match coming up next, but this hasn't been the best of visits so far for Callum. He's got himself into an awkward situation where he's got a really tough shot to play. Whichever way he goes about it, you will not want to leave the one top left as the last ball, so you've got to play it from here and slide it across to the middle of the table. Plays it well, really well, and he actually had to come across more than middle of the table because he wanted to get fairly straight on this yellow so that he could just come down the right hand side.
Yeah, how well did he hit that ball down the cushion? Never touched the sides.
Pretty sure when he started the visit he wasn't thinking about that shot as his way of dealing with that one on the cushion, but yeah, it was very well executed. Another counter clearance from Callum Singleton, who goes 1 away.
The way he played it, there was actually much less margin for error. Wow, another well-hit break, but no joy off it. Seemed to get a good connection on the pack and got plenty of balls moving. Although you can see the key ball has gone slightly over to the side, so hasn't caught it absolutely head on.
And the pattern of the match continues here. That's 5 breaks for Callum Singleton. He's had one successful where he made a break clearance and obviously the golden break to start the match. Other 3 have been dry. Craig Lakin has made a ball off all 4 of his breaks. So he's had first chance 7 times.
And funnily enough, the dry breaks from Callum Singleton may be what cost Craig Lakin this match, because what's happened is that he keeps leaving him in first with kind of half chances, which you feel obliged to go for, but hasn't been getting.
And that's a wild looking shot from Craig. Huge frustration there for him. It's one of those things that I always find strange. A lot of players tell me that in this match, this game rather, always comes down to the break, who gets the chances. You know, the break is so pivotal, and there are times when that is true. You know, the player that gets those opportunities plays really well, and there's nothing you can do about it. But you've still got to play some great pool. You've got to get the breaks give you the opportunity, but you've still got to play some great pool on the back of it. It's not, they're never guarantees.
Yeah, it's almost become a bit of an excuse for a lot of players, hasn't it? Everybody talks about how their opponent broke, but they've got to do a fair bit after that.
And there will be matches, and we'll see that throughout the tournament, where it will be, you know, the player that gets the first chances will take him, and you know, it will come down to the break on occasions, but it's not always the way.
So as the clock ticked below the 10-minute mark, we are now playing with a 15-second shot clock. So as if Craig wasn't playing quickly enough already, he's going to have to play that extra bit faster.
Yeah, and you may be thinking that Craig's sped up here and in almost frustration that he's got a losing hand, but actually, you know, it's the very real fact that he's only 9 minutes left on the clock, just under, and he has to win 4 frames minimum.
Well, I'd be glad the cue ball's pulled up, because right now Callum's happy to just waste a bit of time in this frame. Although there is time to win 4 frames, it's only just, and if we burn any more time off in this tactical frame. So from Callum's point of view here, really, he's just going to be happy to be at the table. He'd obviously love to clear up and win in this visit, but just spending a bit of time at the table has some value.
Yeah, I think he's not even thinking about clearing up. He's playing the loss of turn shot here, get the red off the table above the 8 ball. Yeah, try and get the yellow in the way and make it even harder. I might have been tempted to play it off the one above it so you could hide these 2 reds with the one that you've just played, but Craig did have half a chance there to pop that and getting into his problem area, but the chance of it coming out was very, very slim.
Do you feel right now Craig Lakin has written this match off in his head? Stranger things have happened if he could somehow get in this frame. This has been the dream start, really. Right from that golden break at the beginning, it just felt like it might be Callum's day, and it's just kind of played out like that. So happy to play the positive shot, although he's not going to be too upset that it hasn't worked out. Clock's ticking down towards 7 minutes now.
Yeah, play the clock here if you can. Don't chase a bad finish. Just keep it tight, keep it awkward. If he's left a double on here, that might be a slight mistake, though. Oh, no. Spins round the side.
Yeah, that could have been a Craig Lakin special there. If that ball goes down, he's got a chance, but just hangs on to the table.
And now that red's out the way, Callum, if he wants to, can start thinking about going. He's only got 1 ball that's slightly awkward. The right hand one of the 2 together doesn't have a pocket at the moment. So he's thinking he can slide this one past the 8 ball off the cushion and play it off the yellow. Doesn't want the yellow to move too far, so it'd be a delicately played one. And that should be that, really.
As been a really good professional performance. It's kind of been what his season's like.
Struggling to remember a mistake from Callum at the only frame where he's had an opportunity and hasn't won it. It was a good safety shot from Craig Lakin, and Callum took on a tricky plant, thinking that it was a half safe if he doesn't make it. And other than that, it's been a flawless performance from him. Well, possibly until that moment, because I'm not sure he's on the 8-ball. Might just be on it. Wry smile from Craig tells us he probably is just. And he is, and it goes, and it is Callum Singleton that gets the first win on the board in the Pro Cup.
All right, welcome back everyone. Joined by the Aussie Jake McCartney to talk through this one with our winner, Callum Singleton. Cal, that was very impressive. You must be really pleased to get through your first win on the telly this season.
Yeah, delighted. I started off well. We all know what Craig's capable of, so I know I had to start off well, because if I go behind, he's like a steam train sometimes. It can just blow you away. So yeah, he took out Mick Hill as well, he's the 6-time world champion, #1 seed on the ultimate pool. So you know what kind of standard you're up against when you're playing these players. So
yeah, absolutely. Nice that you talked about your start there. It couldn't have been a better start for you. First hit the tournament and then goes the golden break. What are you thinking at that point?
I apologise to him, because it's a bit of I kind of like it and I don't like it, but when it goes for you, it's the best thing ever. But when it goes against you, it's not so great.
Yeah, probably not one you're going to celebrate first shot of the tournament. Hey, but it was a great start, and he looked in great nick, didn't he, Jakey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Craig will be a little disappointed. He did have a few first chances, didn't take them. Then Callum, punished very heavily, and I don't think he had 100% pot rate for every ball that he went for. He got them all, and that's very hard to beat. So he played very well.
It's one of those, isn't it, Cal, where you're playing well when probably the worst shot you played in the match was probably your last shot to get on that 8-ball, and you still land absolutely plumb on it, even though you played a bad one. That must make you feel like you're playing pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like I'm playing well. So as long as I can keep that up. Like Jake said, I didn't know 100% pot success, so that I went for. So if we can keep that up, then I'll be hard to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your year in general, because the new season, but you're up in the pros now, having had a brilliant season on the challenges. We saw you in the Champion of Champions, went well there. How have you set targets for this year, or are you trying to kind of keep each tournament as it comes?
No, I'm just going to take it each tournament as it comes. I think I need to work kind of on my break, because the break out there, I was creaming them, but just weren't getting nothing at all. So I need to try and work at that. But then when I come to these events and it's golden break, when you pot the black, I do try and work on the cut break, but I just think it's luck. It's just the break is just purely all you can do is control the white and then see what happens after that. So
well, it's something we've talked a lot about before with yourself, Jakey, was that break. But I'm sure there's been a lot of chatter amongst the fellow pros now that Callum and plenty more are coming up. It's really changed the look of the Pro Series, and this fella's going to be a real threat this season.
Absolutely. Obviously, #1 amateur last year. I've known Callum a long time, like back since the junior days, and I already know he's a class act, professional on and off the table, and be forced to reckon with for this season for sure.
And just before we let you go, looking forward to getting going. I think you're tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow morning. Obviously, I've had a very, very quiet Christmas. I must have been on his naughty list for Santa, because I ended up pretty crook in bed for 2 days. But look, I'm just trying to get as healthy as I possibly can over the next sort of 24 hours, and hopefully play some good pool tomorrow.
It's all right, mate. I know you've been all over that Boxing Day test.
Yeah,
There's been worse places to be.